Welcome to Reimagine Childhood, brought to you by Early Childhood Christian Network, where we equip you with the tools you need so you can confidently care for and teach young children. We know you want to provide the very best early childhood experience for children and their parents. But sometimes you feel frustrated and ill equipped because the training that's required is not interesting or it's just not applicable to your daily needs in the classroom. In every episode, we reveal practical, applicable strategies to use in your classroom that will create a lasting impact and will help children build the foundations they need for a lifetime of success. It's time to reimagine our approach to childhood. I'm your host, Monica Healer. Parenting in 2025 is a little different than when I began my parenting journey in the late 1990s. On today's episode, I chat with a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law duo as they share about each of their parenting journeys. Ruthie Havard is a former elementary school teacher turned stay-at-home mom of a toddler who runs a cottage bakery out of her home kitchen. We've linked to her social media in the show notes if you are in the Dallas area. Her mother-in-law, LeRay Havard, is a parent coach and high school educator. She teaches child development to high school students and coaches parents of all ages of children. LeRay founded Steadfast Parenting, a parent coaching company, and just has a heart for equipping parents to build strong relationships with their children. What she really wants is for parents to enjoy their children at whatever age they're at as they parent in a value-centric, age-appropriate way. Her website is steadfastparenting.com. We've linked to that in the show notes, so don't worry. I can't wait for you to hear about some of the challenges of parenting in this day and age from a young mom, and also about resources that are available to young parents to help. One thing you'll hear today is that young parents feel overwhelmed by the amount of information that's already out there for them. So to have someone come alongside and mentor them, like a coach, might be beneficial. Listen in to this great conversation with Ruthie and LeRay. Are you ready? Here we go. Welcome to the podcast today, LeRay and Ruthie. It's so
Thank
fun to
you.
have a daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. That is going to be a fun combo today. Thanks for being
Yes.
here, ladies.
Yes, of
Thank
course.
you.
So we're starting out talking about parenting today. And parenting from two different generations. LeRay and I are in the same generation with kids about the same age. And Ruthie, you are a young first-time mom. So I'm excited to hear about your little son. And LeRay, we're going to start with you, LeRay. Tell me a little bit about your parenting journey 25 years ago. My oldest is 27. Almost 3 decades ago, being a mom was a little bit different than it is today. So talk a little bit about your journey, LeRay, about being a young mom. What were some of your challenges? How did you find help and advice? Give us insight into your journey.
Yes, so it is 27 years ago, which is hard to believe. My oldest, which is Ruthie's husband, is 27. I was 25 years old when I had him. I wanted to be a mom so bad. I was just so excited to be a mom. I felt, yes, this is what I want. And then they arrive. I feel like my whole mindset was like, I'm overwhelmed. But I was overwhelmed in multiple ways. I was overwhelmed with being exhausted, but I was also just overwhelmed with love. I could not believe how much I could love this other little person who is just helpless and can't do anything for you. So I think it's just that juxtaposition of being overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with joy, but at times I was also overwhelmed with worry. As a new mom, every little noise they make, is that right? Is that what they're supposed to do? I couldn't necessarily run to Google, which is probably a good thing at that time. It was just all starting to happen. I didn't have Dr. Google to go to for every little noise. And so just the whole idea of overwhelmed with love and joy and happiness, but also some fear and exhaustion and, oh my gosh, what's just happened to me, my body. My parents, I would go to my parents, and I still go to my parents. I would say that being a new parent or being a parent never changes. Like, you're always needing advice. So my own parents were a wealth of wisdom, but then I also had a dear friend at the church that we went to, and she was further down the road. She had several children, loved babies, and loved on me and my husband. And we would hang out on Wednesday nights I would drop Joshua off at the church nursery, and then I would sneak off and we would meet for dinner. And so those dinners were just a lifeline for the wealth of wisdom.
Yeah.
So just being able to find a friend that's a little further down the road was crucial for me trying to raise those kiddos, because you can feel really isolated as a
Yeah.
new mom. So,
Yeah. I do think as a new mom, I lived far from my parents and we didn't have FaceTime. So it was like a long
exactly.
phone call to
Yes.
call my mom. My mother-in-law lived close, so I would call her. We didn't have Google.
Mhm.
I think that's both good and bad, right? The
Mhm.
amount of things that I Google to figure out is wild.
Yeah.
And when I was looking for help as a young mom, I either tried to figure it out on my own. I'm also super self-sufficient. I don't want to ask for help. I had this idea that I should know what
Mhm.
to,
Yes.
that I think is sometimes hard to overcome as a young mom. Tell me something that you wish you would have known back then.
I wish I would have known that I don't have to be a perfect parent, but that I am the perfect parent for them. And
Oh,
that God created them and He blessed me with them. And so He's going to give me what I need to be their parent. And so just to relax in that and trust in that, that I did have what I needed in order to do the best I could for
yeah.
them. So I think not that I didn't have to be perfect, but then I also, of course, that it just genuinely does go so fast.
Mm.
There's some really long days, but boy, it goes by really fast. I wish I had been able to grasp that, to have a glimpse of that from the other side.
I definitely think in my parenting, I wish I would have known that. I think I read that in a book, or maybe somebody said it to me at some point. Your children don't need a perfect mom. If they did, they would
Mhm.
need Jesus. And that
Exactly.
for me was like, I don't know why that was mind blowing, but when I read it, I was like, whoa, what a burden lifted. You're right. I don't need to be perfect. I need to point my kids to Jesus. That was a huge burden lifted off my shoulders. I just remember that feeling of relief of like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, that's true. You're
Yeah.
right. So I love that. Ruthie, being a mom in the 2020s.
Wild.
Talk to us about being a mom in the
Yeah, so it's actually funny that you guys mentioned Google because that is something that I feel like being a mom right now, you are just oversaturated with information between social media and Google. You could look anywhere for conflicting information. They tell you don't rock your baby to sleep. And then somebody else tells you rock your baby to sleep. Somebody else says don't do this, but do this. I just think that was something I really struggled with at the beginning, especially related to sleep, is I just felt lost, like in a sea of information. It was just almost like I was too informed, if that even makes sense. And then I was just hearing all of these different opinions and advice. So I actually had to go away from Google because I just found myself even more stressed out from finding all this information. I feel like now I can do a lot better at getting information from, LeRay, from my mom, my sister, from people who are around me.
So, Ruthie, tell me how you think your parenting journey is a little bit different than mine or Lorraine.
Yeah, I think it's probably also different in the digital age that we're into.
Mm.
Screen time is such a huge factor right now in everybody's life and technology. I really feel like we're in an age of distracted parenting almost,
Yeah.
where there are so many things that can pull my attention. I just feel like it takes a lot to say, hey, I'm just going to put that to the side right now. And not that you guys didn't have distractions, because there was
Sure.
totally things that were distracting. There wasn't something right here in the palm of my hand that I could look at any time of day. And I try to be really mindful of, am I on my phone in front of my kid all the time? I don't want to do that because I want him to grow up with healthy boundaries regarding screen time. I really think the technology aspect is probably much different between our generations of parenting. It's interesting.
I would definitely say when my kids were little, like screen time for us was TV time. There wasn't an iPad or a phone, or even I didn't have video in my car forever.
Mhm. Mhm.
To where every time we got in the car, a video automatically turns on. I talked to a young mom just the other day who was like, oh my word, I never really thought about that. But you're right. Every time we get in the car, the video on the seat behind me automatically turns on. And I thought that wasn't an issue for me and you, LeRay. Like I didn't
No,
have a TV in my car. I didn't
no.
have a phone that I could hand to my child in the back seat or in the grocery cart. So definitely, I think technology is playing a huge role right now in parenting. It's not that we weren't distracted, it's we were distracted in a different way. And so I do think technology is creating more distracted parenting than probably what we had.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
we had to be the entertainment in the car. Maybe more distracted driving.
Yeah, that is
Yes,
true.
yes,
LeRay, you recently became a certified parent coach. So
yes.
can you talk a little bit about what actual coaching looks like for a parent? And then I would love for you and Ruthie to tell us a little bit about how the experience was with Ruthie as one of your first clients.
Sure. So, parent coaching is if you were to hire a health coach, a nutrition coach, or a coach for a sport for your child. The key behind that is bringing someone alongside you to help you become better at whatever it is you're asking for
Mm,
coaching for. The way I define parent coaching is me coming alongside a parent to help them be their best selves so that they can be their best selves as a parent to their child so that their child can have everything they need to become their best selves. So
yeah.
it's really just the coming alongside. It's not a telling you what to do and how to do it. And this is, do A and B and it's going to fix all your problems.
Sure.
It's peeling back layers about yourself. It definitely has some great tips and tricks to add to your parenting toolkit, but it's just that coming alongside. I got to coach Ruthie, and that was wonderful. She was one of my first clients and let me work to flex those coaching muscles and having
Yeah.
that one-on-one time. I loved having that for sure.
Okay, Ruthie, we didn't do this at the beginning and we should have. Tell us a little bit about your baby.
Yes. Oh, so my baby, I think he's the best, but I think every mom thinks that. He is almost 2, right in the toddler years. He is such a sweet little boy, so active and energetic. He just brings so much joy and laughter into our lives. We absolutely love him. His grandma, that's his Lolly. She saw these things firsthand, and it was so cool too, because in the coaching process, like you never feel judged or you
Mm,
never feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. She was so great about, hey, like, sure, that happened, but what's next? Or next time that happens, what do you want it to look like instead? And so that was really cool, just that she got to see the ins and outs. With all of her clients, that wouldn't be the case. She's not going to get to see that little person in action.
yeah.
That was really special.
You have the benefit of ongoing coaching as
Yeah.
time goes on. What a great experience, honestly, for you. Maybe there was some struggle, but you're not in crisis where you're feeling like, okay, I'm losing my mind. I love what you said. Both of you use the terminology flex your muscles a little bit, like a personal trainer would
Mhm.
push you a little bit, challenge you a little bit, but there's not judgment there of, oh, you're so weak. What can we do to strengthen you? What can we do to build you up? And how do you want this to look next time? So, LeRay, when you coach parents, do you meet in person? Do you meet virtually? Or how does that?
It can be via Zoom if location doesn't allow for meeting in person.
Yeah.
If you're in an area where I am, then meeting in person is certainly great.
Yeah.
It's actually a situation where it was a little different with Ruthie, where I did know the child, but for the most part, the coach doesn't meet the child. The
Oh,
coach it's very parent centric, and the coach is working with the parent as opposed to let me watch the child or make observations or diagnosis or things like that. It's
yeah.
not about that. The parent coming to the coach saying, this is how I feel, or this is what we're dealing with. And then we work from there. So, kind of the parent centric side. It can be done via Zoom, in person, even phone
Awesome.
call if need be. I prefer at least to be able to see faces. It makes a difference for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, Ruthie, tell me one or two aha moments.
Yes. So, a really big one for me was the idea of co regulation. Just that idea that I have to be anchored and calm before I can even begin to help my toddler. So, there's like these little acronyms like anchor and harbor and things like that. And it was fascinating because you hear all this stuff and then you go, of course, I need to be chill. It's all good. This is happening. A lot of the stuff that was, you see that it's developmentally appropriate. And like LeRay was touching on, you're not addressing really the kid's behavior. So she's not saying, oh, your 2-year-old's tantruming. Like, how are you going to fix that? It's, hey,
Yeah.
when he's having a tantrum, this is how I'm feeling. So, how can I walk through this and ground myself maybe a little more quickly next time so I can help him
Mhm.
be more grounded? So, just that idea of co regulation was huge for me. Another one was that all feelings, none of them are bad. You can
Yeah.
feel anger and that's fine. And then even to put that on your kid as well, like your kid, because they're feeling angry or sad, that's not a bad thing. And I
Right.
think there's more of a negative connotation to some emotions. And so you
Mm.
think, I shouldn't feel this anger, or, oh, I'm a mom, like, why do I feel angry? But that's not the case. Like, you're allowed to feel angry, and you're allowed to feel happy and sad and joyful, because we're humans and these are a range of emotions. That was just a really cool takeaway for me too, is that not only are my emotions, they're great, that's fine, let's go through them, but his emotions are too.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be really valuable as he gets older.
absolutely.
That was something about parent coaching now at a young age. I feel like I've just got this tool belt that's just stuffed. We're like, oh man, I can go back and here in 5 years when he's 7 and maybe this is happening. I could go back through and just look at a couple things and say, oh, well, this would be really relevant right now. Or, hey, let me look back at this. It just feels like it's never too late. You could do this when your kids were 21 and you could still learn how to have valuable conversations with them and how to repair. Like, maybe you messed up as a parent when they were younger, but you can learn these valuable skills. And so that was just, it was amazing. Yeah, I really loved it.
I love what you're saying about being developmentally appropriate. Like, that kind of language for me as a young mom wasn't even in my repertoire. I would have never heard the words co-regulation. That wasn't something that was ever talked about, I feel like, in our generation.
No, I agree. Like, even when I was learning these things, I had moments where I had to give grace and forgiveness to myself for that young mom of Joshua and Jessica, of them growing up. Okay, I didn't know all of this, and what would I have done differently? I just had to offer grace and forgiveness. The coaching that I do comes with curriculum that they have access to for life, for free, so that it can always be revisited at different seasons of life. Everything looks a little different over the years.
I think it's one of those things where you, Ruthie, right now, we're building a foundation for yourself that will pay dividends throughout his life. Right. So when he hits puberty and you revisit some of these big emotions that we see at 2 and 3, you see again in a bigger body at 12, 13, 14, right? You see some of the same things, and tantrums might look a little different, but they're still happening then. But you're building the tools, like, you are flexing those muscles. You're building that up in yourself. So when you encounter it again, you're going to know what to do. Or at least you know where to go to look for what to do, to remind yourself of, oh, we were smooth sailing here for a few years, and now here we are again in some big emotional waters. But it's tools for you, and you're building this foundation for your son so that when he gets to be that age, he's got a strong attachment with you. He knows he can trust you. He knows that you're calm, cool, and collected when he's not. That's what he is growing up as, not my sons and I have had conversations now as adults where I am saying to them, hey, I wasn't always calm, cool, and collected. And that probably did not give you the healthiest adolescence that I wish I would have given you. And like you said, even as older parents, right? Like with parents with older kids, I guess is what I should say. We're older parents, but older children, we have to give ourselves grace to go, okay, we didn't know. And now we know. So we're going to do better now. And so I'm interrupting this episode really quickly to share something special. It's time for our annual 2-day summer conferences. I'd love to invite you to join us on July 10th and 11th in Georgetown, Texas. That's just north of Austin. Or August 7th and 8th in Louisville, Texas. That's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Each event includes a variety of breakout sessions to equip early educators at every level. Whether you're a first-year newbie or a decade seasoned veterans, we're bringing in highly qualified, dynamic presenters to lead breakout sessions on every topic you can think of for every age group from birth to kindergarten. Would you like a sneak peek at our keynote speakers this year? Well, listen up. On Thursday, we'll start the day with Dr. Tyler Groves, the author of Growing with One Another, Social and Emotional Learning and Christian Perspective. Then Thursday afternoon, we'll hear from Kristen Mathis and Kendra Worley as they present an active, practical, movement-focused approach to teacher and preschooler regulation from a trauma-informed, brain-friendly, polyvagal approach with a spiritual, biblical basis. Whoa, that was a mouthful, but it's gonna be fun. Then on Friday morning, we'll hear from Dr. Cynthia Small about building family relationships and partnerships for the benefit of the kingdom of God. And we'll finish up our 2 days of learning with a concert by children's worship leader and songwriter Yancey. Registration is open from April 1st until about a week before each event. We'd love to host you either near Austin or in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this summer. Where will you join us this conference season? Check out all of our upcoming events on our website, www.earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com. And now, let's finish up this episode. What do you see as the biggest area of concern or need when thinking about parents of young children right now? Where's the lowest hanging fruit?
I'll let
Yeah.
Ruthie go first.
I can take this one right now. For me, what I see really is screen time. That's just where I see, and it's not a bad thing, but I think we've just started so young and so much. And I think it starts with us as the parents. I shouldn't be just sitting there scrolling on my phone for hours while I'm with my kid, because he's going to see that and he's going to see this is what we do, because kids are like sponges and he copies all the things we do. It makes you really aware of what you do. You think, oh, I didn't know I did that, until you see your toddler doing it. So yeah, I just really think screen time is a big one for me. I try to limit, really don't do a whole lot right now. And I know it can be used as a tool in certain situations, but yeah, that's kind of a big one. Even as kids grow up and as you get to be teenage years, the dopamine effect is real. Social media and TikTok have a real effect on mental health, not just for kids, but for adults too.
Absolutely.
I think just being aware as a parent of a young child, what does our house look like? And do we have an idea of what screen time should look like, boundaries, or just things like that? Taking little steps is really helpful.
Yeah, I think becoming aware as a parent about how screen time affects you will be paramount in how you parent your son moving forward. And I think our church went through the digital fast earlier this year. And I just noticed for my own self, when I went back to having social media on my phone again, how quickly I went back to scrolling a lot. It was within a matter of 2 weeks where I was like, oh, wait a minute. I thought I broke this habit. Here we are again. It is perpetual. So I think you have to be constantly aware. So as an adult, I see it in myself. So I'm grateful that as a young mom, you're seeing it now in yourself and starting to work on it. That's one of those things that's different for LeRay and I. We didn't have that as a young mom. LeRay, what do you think? What's your biggest area of concern for
I
me when it
think
comes to young kids?
I think that it's just helping parents have the mindset of the end goal in mind, to always keep that in mind as far as what are my goals here for my child? Well, I want them to grow up to be physically healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy. So what am I doing today to work towards that end goal with my child? I think keeping the end in mind is huge. A lot of times we're just trying to survive the day, and I get that, but just to have moments that you stop and reflect of what did we do today that's moving us towards this end goal. I teach high school right now, and I feel parents need to recognize that balance of doing for your child, helping your child, but not doing everything for your child, because that just cuts the legs out from under your child from growing their self-confidence, growing their autonomy. I think it was Marie Montessori who said, never do for a child what they can do for themselves. And that doesn't mean you're going to tie their shoes until they're able to learn, until you teach them how to tie their shoes. You shouldn't still be tying their shoes at 12. Just that concept of I always think parenting's like letting the kite string out. And so I would let the kite string out, and then sometimes life's hard and things get tripped up, and my job's to reel it back in as their parent, but then you're still reeling back out. And then eventually, if you take it a little further, the kite goes off the string and it flies off. I tried to tell my own kiddos, that's what I'm doing here, guys, with responsibilities and freedoms and trust. We're letting that kite string out. The idea of letting them become their independent selves over time.
I think what we've seen in recent years, and I would say our generation is probably part of this problem too, is there's been this, like I've heard it recently described as lawnmower parenting, where we're basically clearing the path.
Yes.
And when our children never have to struggle, they also don't build resilience.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one of those, it's a coaching analogy too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
If
And
you
a lot of
never
times
feel pain, there's no growth.
No, exactly. Our job as parents is to help them figure out how to deal with that pain, because the world is going to be hard. How do they deal with that? I definitely agree.
I think even with your kite analogy, when you're having to pull them back in because maybe they're not quite ready or made a poor choice later on, there's still this, but I'm still with you. Like I am still
Yes.
here. I'm not
Yes.
going to let you just flounder.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
also, I'm going to let you struggle a little so
Mm.
that you can grow. But I'm
Yes.
with you. I'm not
Yes.
just throwing you out there to
Yeah.
the wind to
Exactly.
before you're really ready.
Always safe space, I'm always for you. Like I remember telling
I
my
love that.
daughter sometimes, I am on your side. I am on your team.
Yeah.
I'm your biggest cheerleader. You may not think I am right now, but I am for you for
Yeah,
sure.
I very clearly remember one of
Yeah.
my sons in high school. We struggled a little bit with boundaries and things like that, which is normal, right? But
Yes.
we went through a period where I was like, listen, I will fight for you even when
Yes.
you do not want me to. I will
Yes.
fight for your wholeness. I will fight
Hmm.
for your health, physically, mentally, emotionally. I will fight for you because that's
Yeah.
my, and
Hmm.
also I'm going to let you feel these consequences.
Yes, yes. In parent coaching, we talk about consequences and natural consequences
Mhm.
versus punishment and parenting from your values. We start with
Mhm.
that and we end with
Yeah.
that. And I think that's so important. And then I think going back to why are we the lawnmower parent or the helicopter parent? A lot of
Yeah.
times it's from a place of fear.
So true. So
And that is a variety of different fears. My child's going to be judged, or I'm going to be judged based on my child's behavior. So they better not do that. Helping peel back the layers of your own fears as a parent is important for being able to not run the lawnmower.
most of our audience is early childhood educators and childcare providers, maybe Sunday school volunteers, that kind of
Mhm,
stuff. So
mhm.
each one of you, what would be some words of advice that you would like to give early childhood educators about being a parent right now?
Ruthie, you want to go?
I just think as a parent, you can tell when somebody loves your kid. And
Mm.
thank you, truly thank you, because it is just the sweetest thing to watch somebody else love your child. You love that person because they love the person that you love. You just,
That's
um,
so true.
and so I just think of we've got a little Sunday school volunteer and she's amazing. And every time she's in that room and we're going to go drop James off, I go, I just breathe a little sigh of relief because I know that he's going to have a great time and he's going to be good. And so I just think, yeah, just keep loving the kids because
I love that.
it's hard, but it's amazing work and
Mhm.
it's so valuable.
What could that Sunday morning volunteer do to encourage you as a mom?
Yeah, she knows his name. And to me, that's so huge. She sees
Yeah.
him and says, Hey, James. And I know it's small, but that feels big. She encourages me just by knowing him,
So
knowing
good.
who he is, and
Yeah.
that he likes bubbles, and she knows that he likes bubbles. And that's very
Yeah.
maybe one little thing about them, it goes miles. And so that's really
Yeah.
special.
That's so good. And that's so simple. I feel like teachers who care about what they're doing, like they're already doing this. And so
Mhm.
kudos to y'all, teachers. If you are smiling at a mom and taking her baby and know
Oh,
something about them, listen to Ruthie say how that makes her feel right now. What you're doing really matters out
mhm.
there.
It
It
does.
really matters. LeRay, give us some
Yeah.
advice.
I totally agree with Ruthie. It's in the small things. As the volunteer or the preschool teacher, you are being given somebody's most prized possession. And
Yeah.
so to never forget that, never take that for granted and remind yourself that what you're doing is important. I think about preschool. My son and daughter went to a preschool, and I always called it the happiest place on earth. And
Oh,
they loved it, and it was just a happy place, and it was happy because the workers were happy,
yeah.
and,
That makes such a difference.
the teachers were happy. The teachers, yeah, they just were excited to see your child, and it felt very genuine, and so it set up an environment of joy. And for those like a preschool teacher or anybody who works with children, that willingness to continue to grow and learn yourself is huge.
Absolutely.
What we've learned in brain science just since 1990 is huge.
Yes.
And so never stop learning because you are building those brains for children spiritually, emotionally, intellectually. And so it, nobody should ever discount what anybody who works with young children, never
Yeah.
discount what they do because it's so important.
I consider it such a privilege to work with preschool teachers and young people who work with young children, just because I do think often they're overlooked, even for themselves. They will say, oh, I'm just a preschool teacher, or I just work in the nursery on Sunday. I'm always quick to say there's no just in what we do. What we get to do is we get to support parents in this role of raising their young children in the healthiest ways possible. So the more that we know as educators, the better we're able to support parents to help to nurture young children. And that's always an important role. I love that y'all are willing to share your experience about mothering in the different decades and how that has looked different, and then just how coaching has been beneficial. Anything else you think we need to know before we close out this episode?
No, I just thank you for having us, and
Yes,
it's been great. It's a fun journey for sure.
Listen, y'all, I feel like we have all learned a lot today about the different perspectives. I think it's important to have these conversations with different generations of moms to understand each other. Sometimes we can be quick to go, oh, these young moms, all they do is hand their kids a phone, right? Like, and we do it in a way that is not beneficial to anyone. We're not building a relationship. We're not helping transfer knowledge. We're just judging, and that doesn't benefit anyone.
No.
And I think the same thing would be true if we were having this conversation with our moms, LeRay, like with grandmothers, great grandmothers being in this conversation. There are things that we each do as a generation for various reasons. I think some of the things that the way that my mom mothered me would be different. They were different than I mothered my children. And the way that Ruthie is mothering James is going to be different than maybe you mothered Joshua. So I think there's such a benefit to just having the conversation, get to know the perspective of the other parent or the grandparent. Sometimes they have great ideas, or there's a reason underneath what they're doing. We shouldn't always just judge. There's a lot of benefit to having the conversation and going, oh, wait, you're a totally exhausted mom just trying to get through the day. How can we help you with that? Rather than look at you just giving your kid a phone, right? Like that's such a different perspective and mindset. And we react very differently when we understand the underlying things.
Yes.
I love, LeRay, that you are trying to bring this information to young parents and early educators, knowing how the brain works, knowing about attachment styles, knowing about connection. Those sorts of things are crucial for raising healthy children in whatever environment that you care for children in. So thank you for sharing your heart.
Thank you. I'm super excited and definitely passionate about it.
Good. That's the passionate people are the ones who make the most difference. And Ruthie, thank you for sharing your experience as a young mom, and also a mom who's gone through coaching and really seen value in that. So thank you that you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on. It's been such a joy.
Ladies, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So often, I think we forget how hard it is to be a mom of young kids. Really, just to be a mom in general is sometimes a little rough, isn't it? One of the best pieces of advice I heard from LeRay today was just that you don't have to be perfect. This goes for mothering and teaching too. Whether you're in a classroom with young children, or you're parenting young children, or you babysit your grandkids or nieces and nephews, this is for you. Give yourself some grace that you still have things to learn, and you also have an opportunity for a do-over. I loved that Ruthie said learning about co-regulation has been helpful for her as a young mom. If you have followed ECCN for any length of time, you know that we talk a lot about starting with the adult first. Your emotions will spill onto the children around you. Your ability to bring calm into their chaos is beneficial at every age. So, preschool teacher, caregiver, nursery worker, when you look that young mom in the eye tomorrow, what will you say to her? How could you take what you learned today and shift how you approach parents of young children? I, for one, was reminded about how quick I can be to judge rather than showing up with empathy and compassion. You'll be seeing more content from LeRay on our ECCN social media soon as she partners with us to share parenting tips each week. Be on the lookout for great information that you can share with the parents in your life. We've linked to LeRay's resources in the show notes. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for listening to this episode of Reimagine Childhood with Early Childhood Christian Network, where you'll get practical ideas to implement in your classroom today. You might even be challenged to change your mind about a few things, and you'll always be reminded that your work matters. If you love this episode, would you subscribe and then share it with your coworkers, friends, and family? You can connect with us on Instagram at Early Childhood Christian Net. That's Early Childhood Christian Net. And on Facebook at Early Childhood Christian Network. Remember to visit our show notes for more great resources. We're so glad you're here. See you next time.